Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Veil background information. We're doing an Angels and Demons profile, and we're going to be talking about the Archangel Remiel, if you want them as an Archangel. As it's June when I'm recording this, I will be self-publishing the next chapter of the Viper Clan series, which is the last rattle. I'm just going to plug it very quickly. It's a very interesting story. You have Aurel and Cassandra, who are two beings that fall in love. They're both different species. And where the Viper clan normally is quite comfortable with this kind of thing, it's not a bother because they're much more modern than other families. An incident occurs before Aurel can ask for Tybalt's permission to marry her. And what happens is Tybalt's son is killed, and it seems an old enemy from the past is coming back to get them, and it's going to disrupt everything and even cause a mild war. So it's an interesting one for discussing revenge and how that earth and species related issues that how they affect everyone involved. Like even the smallest person is not left out, and all the things that get pulled into it. So it's it's not a tragedy, thankfully, but it is a good story, and I enjoy writing it. So I hope you will enjoy reading it when it comes out. But anyway, back to Archangel Remiel now. So they say, as always, with my angels and demons, I'll give you the quote from a story that they're in or mentioned in. I'll give you the background information that I have for them, and then I'll give you my character profile for them, so how they appear in my series. So let's get into this. They say you hold the they say you hold the power of the Almighty to smite the wicked. There isn't a demon in hell that doesn't know the name Remiel. Quote from Ambitious Aim. So we're back to an angel, and once more we start getting into the angels with smaller sections and details to talk about. Well, Remiel is one of those. Now, initially, you'll find there's two beings that were called Remiel, one spelled Ramiel, and they're also then redirected to Angel Jeremial. This is because of the usual manner of one source using this name variant, another conflating with this figure, and another that's just been equated because there are no other sources of information. Now, I separate Remiel from Jeremial, so we'll not be talking about them, bar where they and Remiel converge slightly. However, I will talk about Remiel briefly first. Now, Remiel is a variant of Remiel, with the same meaning, roughly translated as God shall have mercy. But in some angelology and discussions of Ramiel, it is split into the words that mean God has thundered. And this most often refers to to one of the named Watchers in Enoch. The Watchers, of course, are angels of God that came to earth and naughtily mingled with the daughters of Eve to produce monstrous giant offspring called Nephilim, but also release some of the secrets of God's power to humans. Ramiel with the E is sometimes described in the same book as being a separate holy angel. Ramiel is mentioned as the sixth of the 20 leaders, and some believe the secret knowledge he shared was related to storms and reading to know when the rains were coming. Now, my version of Remiel takes some aspects of this Remiel to try and separate them more from Jeremial, hence I've discussed it here. As for Remiel, he is considered an archangel in Judaism and the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo, sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right, church, and is mentioned in Tubarak. In this he is determined. In this, he is deemed to preside over true visions. In Enoch, with this spelling, he is listed as one of the seven holy angels that were set over those who would rise. However, they are often held as an angel of hope and is said to have two main tasks. He is responsible for divine visions and guiding the souls of the faithful to heaven. And some translations change him to Jeremial or Uriel, Jeremial also meaning God shall have mercy, and is thought to have the same early role of presiding over those who would rise, but Jeremiah also has a secondary role that I use for them, and so Remiel here is separate. If that makes sense. It'll make sense when I discuss Jeremiah, don't worry. In popular culture, Remiel has appeared in feminine form in the television series Lucifer, where she's quite keen on hunting and has an aggressive manner and is certainly a warrior in how they're presented. Romeo has also appeared in Tales of Symphonia, and within the DC comic world, they appear in the Sandman series with a duty to observe humanity and lend a helping hand. There are other mentions in popular culture, and I'm quite sure Remiel was the name of the angel cross human paranormal romance book I once read, and well, clearly was not impressed with, as I've not remembered much of it. But now to my version. Name Remiel. Position Archangel. Story featured in Ambitious Aim. Role Giver of Power. Gender agender, most often seen as male. Description Remiel is seen as muscular and bearing a spear. Their wings are usually white like thunderheads, but where their feet step, dark clouds and the rumble of thunder present. They are a helpful reminder when they need to give humans a kick by forming as a storm on the horizon, but are not generally seen, and when in more flesh form, their eyes are golden and their body is purple. Realm Heaven. Abilities for the thunder and lightning of the Almighty is wielded by their hand to smite the wicked. Master the Almighty. Personality, haughty and jovial. Remiel is often thought to be slightly more temperamental than their kin, and certainly is more alike to Ariel in their tendency to make judgments swiftly and bring violence forward. But they are keen to enjoy life too. They enjoy challenges not because of their own ability, but rather they are always intrigued when a mortal dares to challenge the Almighty, because they often take great amusement in showing up that the Almighty's power is greater, even when it can be in subtle ways. They are thought sometimes to bestow karma upon others, but they are not so crude in their humour. They have a heart that can feel love, though, and sometimes it works as their weakness. Relations. Nyx. When they were an angel of the night, Remiel and Nyx were very close, and when Nyx chose flesh and lured Remiel into their arms, they were eager, until sense pulled them out of it. However, Remiel often watches Nyx slip about and guide mortals into wicked deeds in the night in their demonic form, and often longs to talk to them and just try to learn why they did not repent too. He is somewhat in love with them, although he knows it is not a wise thing to feel. Baal, the one who they were watching develop upon Earth, and often came to test and discipline if Ariel encouraged it. Romeo would find friendship with Baal and his companions, and particularly their friend who was a child of Nyx, and spoke of their mother kindly. But when Baal realizes this weakness, Romeo will pay a hard price and almost risk losing his very being. History. Born amongst the angels of the storm, Jeremial's duty was to build the storms up to help send energy back into the earth, commanding lightning with his spear at the behest of the Almighty. On one occasion, Jeremial was requested to ignite the oceans of the world and create the earliest parts of life. For that, Jeremial feels duty-bound to protect the earliest forms of life and also to aid humans where he can. In heaven they spent their time with the angels of the night, and amongst them one whom would later be called Nyx and became fallen, used to spend most time with him. They were close companions, and as Romeo tended to feel more insulted by some of the lazy actions of some angels, and would rumble thunder to remind them of the Almighty's power, Nyx would often steer them away and encourage them to let the storm pass. However, Lucifer's words and desires were strange and interesting. Romeo had aided in creating life, and so he could not understand where Lucifer's thoughts were wrong. So when Lucifer encouraged the choice of gender and Nyx gladly changed, Romeo changed with her. He and she were about to consummate their affections for one another, realizing that the affection they had was slightly different to the love of the Almighty, but for Abdiel grabbing him and pulling him away. Ariel and Romeo together were reminded by Abdiel of what Lucifer had done and what they would risk doing, so the pair of them repented together. Nyx tried to encourage Romeo to follow with them, but he refused, and so when the battle came, Romeo found himself almost unable to fight, but he did, taking out anyone that dared to come close to the Almighty's throne with thunder. When the fallen were cast out, he was ordered to chase them down, strike each with lightning, and ensure their fall was into hell. It was an unpleasant time, and Romeo was told to prove his worth by stepping amongst the watchers, the power of the Almighty's lightning taken from him. But when Remiel saw what his companions were doing, he rejected it and flew back to heaven and told of the treachery, earning himself the difficult task to prove himself loyal again to the Almighty by drowning the majority of the world he helped bring into being. Remiel obeyed and then strove to try and aid humans where he could, giving them visions but always carrying the spear that held the lightning of the Almighty. When Baal and his companions were entering the world straight after the drowning, Remiel was as intrigued by the group as the others, and always eager to join their challenges and prove that the Almighty would always be greater. But when Baal tricked him into giving him the spear so that he could run, Remiel was then struck by the lightning of the Almighty and seemingly killed, but his will to stop the escape of the damned from hell was drawn up by the Almighty and placed into a new angel. Final comments. I like the portrayal of Remiel as female in Lucifer, but I do tend to think of their character as often more male. Certainly in the story they appear as both. Anyway, thank you for listening. If you're on YouTube, please comment, like, maybe even subscribe if you're interested in these. But I would like to know your opinions, and of course, if there's anything else, any other particular angels you want me to talk about. Anyway, thank you for listening.